So reviewing for the first quiz out of Chapter 8, looking at data analysis and probability, some introductory things there. Question 1, Jennifer would like to survey her class about their preference of restaurants in LaGrange. Which survey question would provide the most unbiased result? Right, so unbiased is giving us good, valid data without the question pushing our results in some way. So looking at these three options, it would be answer choice B. It is the most unbiased question. Question A pushes results to McDonald's. Question C pushes results pretty negatively towards Subway. And question D pushes results just towards pizza restaurants. So that leaves us with B being our best choice. Number 2, determine whether the situation calls for a survey, observational study, or experiment. Now remember, a survey is just gathering data, asking questions of people. Observational study is watching a situation and seeing what happens and gathering information that way, just by that observation. And then an experiment is where you are working with groups of people or items or animals or whatever, and changing the situation in some way, doing something to manipulate the situation. So for this first question, studying random students' SAT scores from a variety of schools to look for a pattern. Looking at patterns and data would be our observational study. In question 3, you want to test the effects of caffeine on the levels of volume of people's voices. Well, anytime you are doing some sort of testing, that would fall then into the experiment part. Testing is experiment, so if you see that word testing, you know it's experiment. So looking at question 4, we have daytime low temperatures for a week, asking us to calculate mean, median, and mode. So mean is the average, right? Mean, to calculate mean, we need to add up our data pieces, right? So I'll add the 30, the 28, the 30. And while I'm doing that, I can start looking for repeated data. So I've noticed I have two 30s. And then as I key in the rest of my data, right, I get a sum of 213. And then to find that average, then I would divide that total by the number of data pieces. So I get, right, I had the total there of 213 pieces of data over the 7 days for a average then of 30.4 degrees each day. For median, to find the median, you would order your data, right? Least to greatest, min to max, and then you work to find the middle. And in the event that you have an even number of pieces of data, then you would average the two that would be left in the middle. In this case, though, I have 30 left in the middle by itself. And then I remember from when I was entering my data or even reordering my data here, I see 30 appears 2 times where the other data points only appear once. Margin of sampling error, we have a basic formula provided right here. There's our formula. 4,200 people surveyed, 70% like the newest Hobbit movie. So to find that margin of sampling error, it would be plus or minus 1 over the square root of the 4,200. And that just becomes some quick calculator work, right? 1 divided by square root of 4,200. And I would probably round that off to 3 decimal places, right? So 0.015. And then because I have a percent here, I would want to go ahead and make that plus or minus 1.5%. So that is my margin of sampling error. To find this interval, then, you are going to go plus or minus 1.5% from the 70, right? So 70 and then minus the 1.5, 70 plus the 1.5, and you could probably do that mentally. But then that's your interval, the 68.5 to 71.5%, right? That accounts for error based on your sample size. The smaller your sample size, the larger your margin becomes. So the bigger the sample size, the more accurate your data will be. For 6, we're looking at some basic probability things here. What is the probability? We pick a yellow marble based on what it tells us is in the bag, right? So yellow marbles, there are 3 yellow marbles out of a grand total of 10 marbles. For B and C, they both have that given, right? So what is the probability that a blue marble is picked given that it is not red? That tells us then that we are removing that red marble from the bag for part B, right? So instead of there being the 10 marbles that we had before, the one red one's been plucked out, so we only have 9. 2 blue marbles out of 9. And depending on the situation, you may want to write these out as percentages, right? This would be 22% chance. This would be a 30% chance, okay? And then for part C, it says what is the probability that we pick a white marble given that it is not red or blue. So we are going to take out the blue, and this red again is still going to be out. So we have 7 marbles now instead of the 10. And there are 4 whites according to what we were told. So then we would do 4 divided by 7. That would be a 57% chance. A 57% chance there for the last part of number 6. For number 7, we have a two-way table. We have male and female, and then if the person surveyed is involved in a sport or not in a sport. And our data is missing some totals. We need totals for our categories here. So this would be 107, and this be 156 males or sports and 50 in non-sports. And then we do need a total number of people surveyed, right? So we can either add our columns or add our row sums for 206 total people. So question A, the student is a member of a sport given she is female, right? So that given she is female says we are only considering the data in this row. So in a sport, it tells us there's 72 in a sport out of 107 total females surveyed. Example B, the student is male given that he is not involved in a sport. So we are now looking only in this column that I marked in blue. So student is male. There are 15 males in that column out of 50 total students not involved in a sport. And again, if you needed to calculate those as percentages, we could do that, right? So this would be 30% here. And for question A, the 72 out of 107, 67% chance there. Okay, so there's the two-way table. And then just a pretty basic problem to end on here. We put tiles in a bag. What's the probability that we draw out a tile with an L on it? Well, I see 3 L tiles, and if I counted them all up correctly, there are 14. And then part B, you draw a tile that does not have an A on it. A lot of the 14, I see 3 here that do have A's, so that would be 11 out of 14. And then again, if I wanted to calculate those percentages, I could. Right, so we have a 21.4% chance here and a 78.5, so I'll just call that 79% chance there. So that is our review for our pretty basic quiz over the first half of Chapter 8.